1985. The first dinosaur to prove viable in the modern age was a small Albertosaur, revision 308. It had behavioral quirks and a chronic skin infection, but it lived. Our preparations were exhaustive. Concrete moats, seismic sensors, 24-hour guard, electrical fencing, video monitors. Dinosaurs do not thrive in captivity. They grow vicious and stop eating, facing their cages. We had no choice but to release them into the wild. Site B was not a zoo, like Jurassic Park. It was more of a colony in a dangerous wilderness. Our buildings were outposts in another era. When the alarm sounded, workers threw down their tools and fled. Muldoon went into the field to investigate. We retreated, landing by landing. Robert stood at the third level, coolly aiming and firing. He focused on the distant Raptor, sighted down the barrel with his clear, perfect eye. I fired once, twice, thrice. The Raptor threshed in the dust. At first it was only an affectation, a plaything. I hardly expected to be involved in gunplay. The fossil record shows raptors living like wolves or lions, hunting in groups. Ours did the same, perhaps a genetically coded social trait. Occasionally we brought a specimen in for observation. I regret to say a sort of dinosaur rodeo would often develop. Muldoon did some ground hunting by jeep. Even with military hardware, it was a messy enterprise. A T-Rex wins against anything except a brachiosaur, or several triceratops, or a good jeep on a good road. Gallimimus, chicken mimic, fastest runner on the island, an eater of insects, eggs, and small mammals. (1988). The raptor watched me through the reinforced glass of the holding room. This was the alpha female. It seemed to know me, its partner in a nameless, endless conflict. We drove east with a heavy escort, in a light rain. No one felt safe on the plains anymore. For some reason no one has ever explained to me the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods bred a surplus of large, aggressive carnivores. By 88, the flat land east of the town was a veritable Olympic Games of predation. Mankind is no match for the dinosaur. To be caught out alone on the plains, no one survives that. Workers smuggled in weapons for their own protection. The workmen sweated and complained in the sun. Armed guards stood round, pacing warily, and we drove the road south. The third dam, in a planned system of 5, which would have regulated the flow of water throughout the island. The only one ever built. The mountain-top uplink was vital to our operations. To maintain it, we blasted a road, winding clockwise up the eastern face. A clap of thunder. The ancient predators looked up to see dust rising from a dynamite explosion. The residential protective wall was a Site B institution. As it was under constant observation, It was a prize target for graffiti artists. The security officers formed their own social group, swapping war stories and discussing reaction speeds. Once the island was made known to the world, it would be a permanent settlement, perhaps even a sovereign island. Waking to the smell of the jungle, the distant call of an apatosaur. The US watches its imports and exports too carefully for my purposes. We dealt mainly with China and Russia, trading on the grey market. I would often walk out on the piers when we received shipments. The mingled languages, the salt of the sea air, the burnt oil smell of the industry. The sea, like glass. I left in the morning for Chateau, Montana, buoyant and slightly desperate. I would find Doctors Grant and Sattler, get a statement of some sort. Economics. The bankruptcy struck Site B with more force than the hurricane. The last of the worker team came in, and we rushed to shut the gate behind them. Later that day we closed the eastern gate permanently. I retained a passcode, of course, and left it in a hidden place. David Graff and Hound's Tukey were caught at midnight by the waterfront. In the hysteria of the final days, they were nearly shot. Fortunately, the Bowmans settled out of court, but the damage had been done. A mere lad from Ontario, where he had enjoyed some success, controlling wildlife overpopulation in the national parks. He was out of his element on Isla Sorna. A background check on Harry Greenwood revealed nothing out of the ordinary. A community college education, a gun permit. Sources say Harry later attempted to penetrate the interior of the island. His plan was to reactivate the geothermal plant, then to gain access to protected data at the main lab. He thought he would be a hero, an explorer, a Lawrence of Arabia, braving danger. He did not understand what danger really is, how easily and unexpectedly death can come. Some effort was made to track Mr. Greenwood, but we never discovered what happened to him. On my last visit, the iron was beginning to rust, and part of the stairway had cracked and fallen away. Sooner or later, someone will come, Biosyn, or American intelligence, or some godforsaken treasure hunter. Our research data have become unthinkably valuable. Our computers are obsolete, and our network links are down. If they want it, they will have to come for it, but I believe it is too well hidden and in far too dangerous a place. I picture the Americans searching our wreckage, awash with that particular feeling that comes from a ruin, the physical remnant of a lost world. I had an odd dream of a mighty wizard who lived his life alone. In Greek myth, Daedalus was a master artificer. The king of Crete commissioned from him a great labyrinth. Daedalus labored for 10 years to produce this thing. It was so bewildering that one could not take a single step inside without losing one's way. Having built the maze, Daedalus himself became entrapped within it. and thorns shall come up in her palaces, nettles and brambles in the fortresses thereof, and it shall be an habitation of dragons. Isaiah 34:13. Never again.
Hammond thought this would be here forever. Hammond's legacy. A lost world.